When I first started budgeting, I downloaded dozens of templates and every one of them left me frustrated. Some were too complicated, some didn't track the right numbers, and some of them just completely didn't make sense to me, which ultimately made it harder to stick to. So I did what most people have to do eventually, which is I just created my own spreadsheet, and it's helped me pay off my debt, save over 3 months of my emergency fund, and also free up my cash flows so that way I can actually invest into my future without using 10 different budgeting apps or spreadsheets. In this video, I'll walk you through the exact budget tracker that I use so you can start tracking your own finances, and you'll be able to download this tracker in the comments down below. This isn't really about finding the perfect budget or spreadsheet. It's really about forming the habit of using one and then also creating your own so that way it actually fits your lifestyle rather than a template. This is really going to help you stop wondering where all your money's going and what your financial situation looks like. And it's a place to where at first you're probably going to use maybe daily and weekly, but ultimately you want to get to the point where you can just check it every single month, update the numbers, talk to your spouse or partner about it if that's relevant, and then just move on. So to start off, I just wanted to show you the evolution of my budget trackers and then get into the one that I'm currently using today. So I actually found this one from 2016. As you can see, it was not really filled out. I created a new one every single month and then I just used this sheet. I don't know, I just found it off of Google somewhere. Anyhow, so this transformed into something like this. This is one that I found from 2021 that I was using, which is very similar to the one that I'm going to show you right now. Mine's a little chaotic. Actually, mine's still a little messy. I cleaned it up before I started working on this video, so you can have a cleaner template. I know where everything is on this sheet, but that doesn't mean you would. So anyhow, this is essentially the sheet that I used for many, many years. So from 2016 to 2021 to, I'm still using it now in 2025, just almost exactly the same now. And then this is the clean version of the template that you can use on your own. So there's a couple sections. We're going to walk through each piece of this one by one as briefly as possible. And then the last part we're going to go over here is actually have my schedule on here as well. And I'll tell you why that is. It's very deliberate that it's on this page. So this is the template. Every single month, you're going to duplicate the previous month and then rename it as the current month because you want to use the same numbers relatively. Unless there's a major change, everything should be relatively the same. So let's say this is February. Okay, now let's walk through every single section on here. So first and foremost, income. This is where all the money's coming in. So this is your income source. You just put this in this category. So if you're married, you can put me or your name, like I'm Johnny, I'll put Johnny, and then whatever your wife or husband's name is. And then you want to put your after-tax income here. So this is your after-tax income. If you get paid bi-weekly, you would put in 2 times. If you get paid monthly, you would just put in the lump sum, whatever it is. But you just want whatever money is going to hit your accounts this month on this sheet. And then if you have a spouse or partner, you would put them here as well. And then it's going to calculate the total amount of income between both of you after taxes. Okay, next up, starting and ending balances. So every single month I would come in here and I would put my starting balances on all my accounts. And then at the end of the month, I would put my ending balances. This was a way for me to track whether my money was going up or if my money was going down. And it would also help me throughout the month, check to see if I need to make some adjustments because I always want this number, this total here on the current balances to be higher than the starting balances ideally. And then also too, at the end of the month when I was coming in here, if I noticed this was lower than my starting balances, if my current balance was lower than my starting balance, then I would know to make some adjustments for next month when I came in and duplicated this template. Account balances. So you want to keep track and have an idea of where you're at with all your cards. So these were all the cards and stuff that I was saving for. And you just want to plug in, whatever your loans are, your credit cards, and the balances they have. So if you have a $3,000 credit card, you owe $24,000 on your car payments, maybe let's change one of these to house, mortgage actually. Maybe it's $300,000 or whatever it is. This gives you a snapshot of all your debts and can really help you again at the end of the month when you're looking at this thing and you're trying to decide what to do next month. These numbers here can really skew with how you're planning out your budget for next month because you might want to be getting out of debt, and if you're noticing that these numbers are going up or they're not going down as fast as you want them to, just being able to visually see them every single month is going to help motivate you to make changes and build up that habit of spending less and saving more. Okay, and then let's go into the next section. So this is all of your expenses. Mostly we want to put all set expenses on here and then leave non-set expenses for the end. So this first section here is just going to be household and needs. So bare bones expenses that are usually set that you're going to be paying in no matter what. So for example, here I just put housing. So this could be your rent plus, let's say you do $200 a month on whatever toilet paper, household type of expenses. utilities. So if that's set, great. If it's not set, you just want to have at least a rough number. If you've been paying into it and you've been living at a place for, at least a couple months, you should have a rough estimate of what that number is, and you can be able to put it in here. And I would always encourage you to overestimate rather than underestimate. Groceries, what's your average grocery expense, car payments, gas, car insurance, minimum debt. And then there's plenty of room here for you to add more set needs category expenses. Then you want your long-term savings, investments, goal-based stuff, debt, payments, all into one category. So all of these numbers here. So let's say you're putting $300 in your emergency fund. What are you putting towards long-term? Now this long-term category that I have here is going to be after your net income. So if you're paying into your 401k, for example, at your job, this would not be calculated here on the spreadsheet because we're just calculating what hits your bank accounts. Sinking funds, if you have one for, let's say, household expenses, whatever it is, extra money you're putting towards your debts, extra money you're putting towards your house down payments, other type of investments, maybe you're saving up for like a college fund for your kids, etc. And then this last part here is going to be your wants category. So these are like the extra things where if you needed to go bare bones, cut back on everything, these are the first places that you want to cut before you go into something like, I don't know, your housing, assuming you have the appropriate amount of housing. Okay, so you plug in all of these numbers, and then these numbers are going to be calculated several different ways. First is you're going to be able to see at a snapshot what percentage here of your income is going to your needs category. So in this example, these are all random numbers, by the way. I don't know if I said that earlier. 66% of the income is going towards needs category. 22% in this example is going towards investments or paying off debt. And then 10% of the income is going towards wants. So we're looking at a grand total of 100%. Now, the other thing that's calculated down here too is you can also see your total wants that you've calculated. You notice this number is different than this number. That's because this wants category is calculating after needs and investments. So this lets you know how much money you can spend towards things that are wants every single month. And then you can plug them in here and then to get a rough idea of like how much money you can spend on this category. And it's calculated how much you've allocated so far. So you can spend $950 a month towards wants, and so far you're doing $920, you have $30 extra that you can put towards this calculation. Total amount of expenses is calculated here. Income, so this is just taking it from this number. And then the next thing that I like to do that's really helped me out is I have this column here that's the actual amount of money I put towards something, and which is calculated down here. So let's say, okay, so I paid my rent, it's the first, and whatever, I paid all my bills. It starts adding up here how much I've paid so far in the month. And then it's also simultaneously calculating how much more money is going to come out of my accounts every single month. The reason why I liked to do this when I was getting ahead is I could take a look at my accounts. Let's say I didn't have all this extra money and I was kind of living paycheck to paycheck. I knew I needed $5,000. I paid X amount of bills already. I have X amount of money in my accounts, and then I still need to pay X amount of dollars, right? I'm expecting $4,000 more to come in for the rest of this month, and I still have $5,000 worth of expenses. So now I know I have a shortfall of, whatever that is, almost $1,000. And I could see here that, I still have $3,000 available that I can pull from. So it kind of just helped me get an idea of my cash flow, my expenses, and help me like not have to use my credit cards and help me stay cash flow positive. So I'm going to bring all those numbers back. Now let's say for the wants category, so you can do what I do, and which is I leave my wants category empty. I just put wants here, and then I just put whatever my balance is. So I can have, in this example, spend $950 towards wants. And then what I do is I just throw everything onto one credit card that I get points off of. And then I try to keep it around this number, $950 or whatever it is, every single month. Okay. And then at the end of the month, I'll have a balance and I'll know how much I was able to spend for the month and how much I actually spent. And the same thing here. So let's say groceries, you ended up spending $1,200, car payment, $600, $300, $250. Let's say everything was like pretty much the correct numbers, except for you overspent on the wants category and you overspent on groceries. So let's say everything was the correct amounts or the amount that you had budgeted for, except for two categories. The $1,200, let's say you spent on groceries, and then let's say you spent $1,500 in the wants category instead. Now the spreadsheet's going to let you know that you went over $950 right here. So you can clearly see $950 negative. This gives you a really easy snapshot to see, where you overspent and, where you can do better for next month. Now, this is what works for me. What works for you may be something completely different. The idea is, though, you want one of these spreadsheets, whether it looks like this, or this, and then you want to work on it at first every single day, maybe just a few times a week. And then over time, you want to get to the place to where you have it all set up. It works for you, works for your partner, and you come in here and update it at a regular cadence that works for you and your partner. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about over here is actually the schedule. Now, obviously this isn't budgeting, but it is in a way, because this is how you're budgeting your time, right? Like, this is the money, and then that's a budget where you have a limited amount of resources, and your time is also a limited resource. Now, you can see here, I never actually tracked my time here in 2016, but over the years, I decided it was important for me to know where my time was going. And this is the first version that I had of this time tracker of where I was spending my time. Lots of Dungeons and Dragons, playing drums, and going to the gym. Now here, this is just a template that you can use to plug in your numbers, but I think it's really important to have an idea of, where your hours are going. So let's say you work 9 to 5, this whole chunk right here, this is your work time where you're making your money. That's why it's green, because you're making money. And now this, in association with your budget, can really help you think about where you're putting these dollars, right? Because you're trading this, these are hours in the day, you're trading this for this right here. You're trading these hours for this money, and you're spending it on this stuff. So for me, it really helped me realize the importance and the value of the money that I was making and where I was spending it. And then it can also help you realize where you're prioritizing your time. So if you're not really sure what your goals and your vision is for your future, start plugging this in on where you're spending your time. And this can give you an indication of what your future might look like. It might also help you realize that there's some stuff you're spending time on that you might want to change because it's affecting whatever things in your life. Maybe it's affecting your income or your spending, whatever it may be. But you really want to sit here and think about, where's my money going? Where's my time going? And what's important to me? If you want this exact spreadsheet that I've been using, then go ahead and click the link in the comment down below. And once you have it, or really any spreadsheet that you're going to be using, the real magic is implementing it as a habit, as part of your system, and not solely just focusing on plugging in numbers. That's why after this video, I recommend that you go ahead and watch the 3-part money system that I use and that I help my clients with. So that way you can implement habits and automate systems to get ahead financially. So go ahead and watch that video next, and make sure to subscribe for the next video.